So I want to officially welcome everyone again to the Boundary Systems webinar Wednesdays. This one is on Windchill Effectivity. Once again, welcome. My name is Michael Wimberly, and of course I'll be presenting today. So just briefly, the agenda for today, of course, is I'll explain to you, of course, who I am. I'll go through some boundary systems overview so you can get more familiar with our company if you're not familiar with us. I'll go through just some general setup information about Effectivity, do a demonstration on Effectivity within Windchill, and then after that we'll have a Q&A session at the end. All right, so real briefly, once again, my name is Michael Wimberly. I am a senior technical specialist at Boundary Systems. I've been working with PTC products for over 20 years now. I am a certified instructor in both Creo and Windchill classes. I'm also a certified implementer for Windchill, and I myself am actually located in Cincinnati, Ohio. Boundary Systems is actually located in Cleveland, Ohio. All right. So Boundary Systems itself, we're a technology leader, once again partners with Stratus, which is 3D printers, PTC, of course, for Creo and Windchill products and any other products that they may have. Autodesk, we also do eTrade, and other technology companies. We are number 16th in the fastest growing private companies in the greater Cleveland area. Our capabilities are product lifecycle management, data management, CAD design and consulting, simulation, 3D printing, and of course product development. On the right side, you just kind of see some of the companies that we currently work with or have done work with. We have ViewRay, we have Cooper Tires, Sherman-Williams, we have Fives, which is down in my neck of the woods, Via Motors, Patel, so on and so forth. So this isn't everyone. These are just a few of the names that we've actually worked with or are working with. As far as Boundary Systems itself, once again, some of the industry awards that we've had over the past couple of years. In 2011, we were number 1150 in the EAC 5000 as far as the fastest growing companies. In 2012, we were 1103, and 13 we were 1398, and in 2014, just last year, we were 4378. So we're still among the elite as far as the growing companies. Also in the Weatherhead 100, which is in Northeast Ohio's fastest growing companies, we've been number 10, number 14, and number 32. So once again, we're still growing as a company, which is great overall. And then some of our major accreditations, we are, once again, a Stratus support service provider. So not only do we sell the 3D printers, but we also are a service provider, so we can come in and set them up. If there are problems with them, we can actually go in and actually work on them as well. Windchill certified implementer, not just myself, but there are several other individuals in the company that are certified to implement Windchill. Once again, PTC preferred service provider and PTC certified training partner. So we not only train, but we also have a training facility, or have several training facilities that we can actually train on, or bring training to your facility as well to do on-site training. We have that capability as well. And then just a few other things, once again, our partners that we work with. So PTC, Stratus, Autodesk, eTrage, Object, and then once again, Solid Thinking. All right, so now, assembly standards. So no matter what time you look in the industry or where you look in the industry, things have always been put together. Some of them in an assembly line where the product is progressing through the line. So basically, as it goes through each stage in that line, it gets more and more complete. Or you can have a situation where you're building the same thing just in different areas. So there's basically, it's being built in one location, but there's multiple locations that the same thing is being built. There's, no matter which method you use, they always have one thing in common, and that is simply a bill of material. Everything has a bill of material in it What that basically does is just simply a list of the items that make up the assembly, but it's a necessary piece for putting everything together. You have to have a BOM in order to know what you need. Now, with that, with the BOM, everything is always plus minus. There's always pros and cons to everything. So, of course, the pluses when you're dealing with BOMs is, it shows you everything that you want. But with the BOM, the bad thing is it doesn't always show you everything that you need. The reason I say that is because when we go in and we deal with products, the products are always evolving. So designs continue to evolve and different revisions are made. Now with that, not all revisions are immediately implemented into the design. So although the change may have been done, that doesn't necessarily mean that the change needs to be implemented now. So sometimes when you go and you get that latest BOM print, you get the latest and greatest, but that doesn't necessarily correspond to what you're actually working on. So once again, with that, there may be a situation where there is a specific date. Okay, we're making these changes, but we're not implementing these changes until the first of the year, or until we run out of this product, or whatever it may be. So what this does, it basically allows you to control the inventory and once again what gets released into the field. A good example of that, of controlling the inventory and what's out there for public, of course, is the Apple products. So when you look at the iPhones, those that love them, those that hate them, you have to respect the fact that the Apple has continuously gone through and made strides in their manufacturing. So the things they've done in, if you go into the early, the 3G versions of them, well, they've made changes to 3Gs that they simply implemented into the 4s. So they made the changes, they didn't implement them until they actually came up with a new version of the phone. So that's what we do a lot of times with our products, is we go in and we tweak what we've been working on, but we're not going to release it in that revision of our product. We're going to release it on a new revision of the product, and that may be set once again by a particular date. So the effectivity, being able to track these dates and the BOMs associated with them is very important. That is where setting the effectivity comes in. So what we're looking at here on the screen is just simply beginning and ending dates. This is basically the beginning of effectivity and end of an effectivity. Anything that expires basically means its effectiveness is gone. So you can see it starts at a particular time and it ends at a particular time. These things seem to be in more like a 3-month sessions, 4-month sessions. So every 4 months, the revision is basically released and new ones are actually put out. So once again, by setting the effectivity, it will control when a BOM is updated. So although they may go into the system, they may get a BOM today, but those changes aren't being implemented until, like I said, maybe the first of the month. So they'll still get a current BOM of the current revisions of the items, not the latest and greatest, because that's not what they need currently. So once again, you control when it's updated, which controls what is listed in the ERP system, which controls what is ordered, which controls the inventory, which controls how much money is or isn't being wasted. So once again, by being able to have that updated BOM at the right time will control all the things that you see here with the ERP system. So your inventory, your purchasing, the vendor information, payroll, accounting, even with the customers, making sure the customers get the right information. So that's all important when we're dealing with our effectivity or the releasing of our actual products. All right, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the Windchill demonstration. So currently we have this assembly. So we have a main assembly, which is the overall drill assembly, but we're actually dealing with one particular piece of that assembly, and we're actually dealing with the main handle of that assembly. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up into a window. And then we can see the structure here. Now, we can see that things are at different revision levels. So we've gone in and done some work on some things, and we can come back and actually deal with those at a later date as well. So we can go back and see the history of when things were created, when things were revised, so on and so forth. So we can always go back and check on that. All right. So the item that we're actually going to deal with is going to be the actual handle bracket. I'm sorry, the handle plate. So we want to go through and we want to manipulate the handle plate. So I'm going to go in and actually open that up in its own information window so we can look at that. So the first thing we want to do is this thing actually has to go through a change process. Now, the core capability of Effectivity is actually designed to work inside of the change process. So it's actually a step inside of the change process that can be set. So when you're actually going in and making your ECN changes, your ECN changes to your objects, you can go through and set when this object becomes effective in the models. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this one and I'm going to go in and create a new engineering change notice. Now, this may be permission-based. I'm not sure if anyone on here actually uses this currently, but if you do, there are certain steps that usually go through the process of being able to set up an ECR and then going into an ECN process. You may or may not be able to do this directly, creating an ECN directly from an object. You may have to go through the ECN process. But for this one, we are able to go in and do it. And what we're going to do is we're going to go in and change this. The name of this change notice is going to be bracket material change. All right, and then just a general description if we want to put one in there is not necessary. The only thing that is necessary is, of course, the name of the file. So change to 6160 aluminum. All right, then we have the actual implementation plan. So how is this thing going to be implemented? So this is now where we go through and we edit this plan. So inside of here, once again, we have the change task, which is going to be assigned currently back to myself, the user being Mike Jones. So we can assign this to anyone within our product to go in and make these changes. And I'm also going to really review it. This is just simply for time's sake so that we can go through and actually get through this relatively quickly. So I'm going to leave those as the same, and I'm just going to simply go to the next tab. So with the next tab, we currently have the CAD file, but of course with the CAD file, we want to go through and make sure we're also including our WT part files. So we actually go through and include those as well. Now, with the WT part, one of the benefits of also using the change task is we can go through and figure out what the disposition is of the existing files. So anything that's currently on order, how do we deal with those? Anything that's currently in process, how do we deal with those? Anything that's finished, that's on the shelf, how do we deal with those? So anything that's currently on order, we're going to go ahead and return those. Anything that's currently a work in process, we're going to go ahead and scrap that. Now, anything that's in process, we're going to go ahead and use those up. And anything that's currently finished, just say use existing. So we're going to leave that as it is. Now, what we're also going to do, so this is for the current files. Now we want to go through and create new versions of these files. So we're going to select on these and we're going to go ahead and revise those. So the resulting objects of our change are now going to be revision C. And those will now appear down here at the bottom of the screen. So now we're going to come over here and set the effectivity. So underneath the actions, there's your set effectivity. And we're going to go through and specify for this, it is going to be based on a date, and it's going to be the exact date that I go through and specify. And that exact date is going to be basically the first of the month. So we don't want this change to be implemented until the first of the month. And from there until we change it again. If we change it again. So that's why you don't put an end date, because it's from now until forever, basically. All right. So there we have it. So there's the part, there's the CAD file, and then once again, if we want to review it again and make sure, we can check, okay, yep, that effectivity was set properly. Great. We'll go ahead and finish out that task. I'll go ahead and finish this out because there's nothing else I need to do here as far as adding attachments or associating changes. So I'll just finish, and I'll go ahead and submit this now. All right, so now when I go back to my home page, I will now have a task, complete the task for this change notice. So I can go into the change task. So once again, me being, if I was someone different, I come in here to the change task. All right, I'll come over and edit it because I'm currently in the change task, and I can review what's been set up. So I can see, okay, these are the original files. These are the new files. Okay, now my question is, has there been a disposition setup? I'm sorry, an effectivity setup for this? So I can come over and select it and say view effectivity. And I can say, yes, there is one set up. If there wasn't one set up, then I would go and set up at this time. Great. So everything is where it needs to be. I would now actually go through and make changes to these files. So I would go in, change the material type as necessary, and then come back into my change task and basically say, okay, I've completed that task. Once again, I'm just going through it relatively quickly, not actually doing the physical changes inside of Creo. All right. So now at that point, because I am also the reviewer, but of course this would now go to whomever the reviewer is, they would now come in, review that change task, same way that the person doing the change task reviewed it. So they would now actually go in, review it, make sure everything was done properly. If it was, they would complete it. If it wasn't, they would do rework and add notes or add comments to it as far as what needed to change. We're confident that the changes were made properly, so we'll go ahead and say complete task. All right. Now there is one additional step that needs to be completed. And that additional step is an audit. Sorry. And that audit is currently done here. I don't have anyone set up, so it's actually being done by the administrator. So audit the actual change. And what they basically do, once again, if you're not familiar with the actual change process, they basically review the entire thing from ECR to ECN to complete to make sure what was initially started is what's been completed. So they're going through that complete review there. Great. They complete their task, and now everything is completed. Sorry, wrong person. All right. So now if I go back into my engineering folder, and I come down here and I look at the handle bracket. Where'd it go? I'm sorry, the handle plate. If I go in and do my information report on it, currently by default it does not have the information for my effectivity, but I can go through and add a tab for that, customize it, and then there's a pick under General for Effectivity, which will show the effectivity. There's also an option under History to show Effectivity History, which shows all the effectivity that may have been set for this particular object. So what we see right now is that currently the effectivity of this is simply the current revision of it. Now, in order for the effectivity to truly work inside of your assemblies, and I'll show you that in just a moment when I go through and show you the filters in the assembly, then the effectivity should be set in all of the previous versions of the file as well. That way we know when things were actually active. So what I'm going to do is go back into the history, excuse me, and I'll go into B, go back into the effectivity tab, and down here I can go through and manually set the effectivity as well. So like I said, the core functionality was was created basically to be done inside of the change process so that you can set it right there as you're making the changes to the files. But if you do need to go through and make the changes outside of the change process, you can do it here as well. Once again, permissions, allowing the permissions to do it. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say from 1-1-12 through the end of the month, this one is active. So I can see the history there. And now I'm going to go to the history of A. And I'm going to set the effectivity for that one as well. So for this one will start at the beginning of the file, which was 3-1-11, and it will go through, I can't believe it let me put that date in there. I just realized that. This one will go through 12/31/2011. All right. Not sure why it let me put that date in there, but that's kind of off. So I'm going to actually edit that one. Sorry about that. All right. So I don't think any of us around were around in 12 AD. Just my thoughts. All right, so now at this point, I'll go back into the main engineering folder and I'll actually pull up the handle assembly. So I'm actually going to go ahead and filter in the table and just go to handle. That way I don't have to continue to filter. So there's a handle main assembly. So I'll go inside of it and I'll look at the structure. Now, the current structure of this, of course, shows all the latest and greatest of everything. So we can see everything at revision C's, B's, A's, so on and so forth. But we may want to go back in time. So this is what it is as of latest and greatest. But let's go back. And I want to see what it is as of the date-wise as of today. So I'm going to remove latest and I'm going to change the effectivity and in our normal design view, I'm going to change the effectivity to being today. Add that, make sure anything that does not have effectivity goes ahead and uses the latest and greatest. And there we have it. So if we look at that plate that we just created, it actually shows the plate at revision B. So if we go back a little bit further, and we can go in and say, okay, let's change the effectivity date. And let's go back to, actually, let's go back 2 years and see what it was 2 years ago. And we can see 2 years ago, there's quite a bit of changes that weren't there. Now, it's easy for us to look at it just singly, but we also have the ability to do a compare. So what I want to compare is the part structure. All right, so the part structure, B design, or I can come down here and edit my filter. So same way I did it here. I want this to be the design for that date, and I want this one to be, I want to use the default on this one. So it's going to be the latest design. So what I'm able to do is now compare the two structures. So I can see that back in 2013, this was at A, now it's currently at B, this was at B, this was at C, so on and so forth. So I can see all the different changes that were done between the two structures inside of Windchill. So once again, it is a valid way of going in and now and doing comparisons. So instead of having to take a screenshot and looking at it, I can do my comparisons for that as well. Now, the other thing that I can do is I can also come over here and use a different filter. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to remove this. What I want to find out is what this looked like when it was actually released. So when it went to production release, what did it look like? So that's actually a baseline that I saved. So when I released it, I created a baseline of all the latest and greatest files and saved it out so that I can come back to that. So with that, I can use that as a filter as well to go through and find the latest and greatest. So compare, okay, this is what was released. Okay, now this is what the structure is. So what changes happened between when I released that file and to today? And you can see that once again, there are a few changes that have happened to this model since then. All right, so Effectivity is very useful, very handy to use. So you can go through and set them up. You can, if there's something that you're looking to use, then yes, it's important to go in and start to use the effectivity dates, and you may have to go back into your models to go through and kind of update some of the effectivity dates. If that's not feasible for some of the things that you can do, then yes, using baselines is another way of going in and locking in those snapshots in time. So I can go through and create a baseline like you just saw here for my release configuration. So that's important to me. I want to find out what structure it was when I released it. Okay, revise it to B. Well, what was that structure when I did the release of revision B? What was the structure when I did release to revision C? Or any other milestone that I want to go through and lock in. So I can use Effectivity because that is, you know, a really nice way of going in and controlling it. Of course, the assembly itself, I haven't set up Effectivity inside of it, but I do have it within some of the individual files. So that's why we were able to go through and look at the effectivities and have those change as well. Wrong part. So, okay. So at this point, are there any questions? If there are, you can type them into the webinar question area. And I'll wait for a minute just in case you're typing. Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, so if after this webinar you do come up with any questions, or you have any, you want more information or want to go deeper into this, we can do that as well. Here is my contact information. Once again, my name, Michael Wimberly, my phone number, area code 513-415-0747. My email address is mwimberly@boundarysys.com, and then of course you can always find out any of our other webinars or contact or any information about us on our website at www.boundarysys.com. Sorry, there is one other thing that I did want to mention about the effectivity, that the effectivity is not just date based. You can actually set the effectivity by serial number. So you may have a serial number on an item. So you may have serial number 1 through 100. Well, you can go through and set up inside of your models that serial number attribute and actually go through and use that as well. So I can see, okay, when I was using serial number 59, what was its structure? When I was using serial number 99, what was this structure? So you can filter for that as well. And you can go through and set up ranges that your files are actually in for the serial number. So this file is valid for serial numbers 1 through 50. And this one is valid for serial numbers 51 through 75. So you can go through and set those up. Just like dates have ranges, you can set up serial number ranges as well. So you can do that as well, and you can also set them up for lots. So a lot being like a bin. Okay, everything in this bin is being used from this date to this date. So use lot number 10 from, January 1 to June 1, and then from June 2 through the end of the year, use lot 4. So you can go through and set those things up as well. So once again, it's not just date based. It can also be serial number based. It can also be lot based as well. I apologize for not mentioning that earlier. I meant to mention it while I was actually inside of Windchill. But once again, if you do have any additional questions, or once again want some additional information on any of this, definitely feel free to contact me, and we'll get you the information. I once again want to thank you for attending our webinar Wednesday on Windchill Effectivity, and have a great rest of the afternoon.